Senator, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
So I want to start by asking you about the Virginia Beach shooting. It seems that these shootings, mass shootings, have been happening more often and more often each time. So how do we stop them?
Look, you're talking about an epidemic of mass shootings. It is a horror. And maybe the worst part of it is you got millions of children today who go into school, and you know what? They are afraid. They're literally afraid that some lunatic is going to come into the school and shoot it up. Nobody has a magical solution because you have hundreds of millions of guns all over this country, and you have a number of people who are mentally unstable. So what we have got to do is pass common sense gun safety legislation, which makes sure that people who should not own guns do not own those guns. And that means ending the gun show loophole. It means, in my view, getting rid of automatic weapons in the civilian population. Those guns are designed to kill people quickly. That's a military operation, should not be in civilian society. So we need common sense gun safety legislation, and we have to take on the NRA.
And how do you do that? Because, I mean, do you have any hope for bipartisanship?
Yes, you do. And I think we are making, let's be clear, we are making progress. The NRA now, for the first time in a long time, is on the defensive. And many members of the NRA understand that instead of being simply a gun organization, they are now a right-wing political force. So I think we are making progress, led by the young people by themselves, by the way. But the American people want gun safety legislation, and Congress has got to pass that.
Now, another issue that's been on the news these days, Donald Trump has said he's going to implement tariffs to all Mexican imports if Mexico doesn't stop illegal immigration from Central America.
Look,
what do you think?
I'll tell you what I think. I think President Trump, and I say this without any joy in my heart, I think he is a racist. I think the things that he has been saying about the Latino community from way back when, the people from Mexico, whether they're rapists and they're criminals, you remember all of that stuff. It's disgusting. And what I am working on and what I believe in is comprehensive immigration reform. We got 11 million undocumented people in this country. Let's work on a path towards citizenship. Let us make sure that the 1.8 million young people, and I've been talking to some of those young people throughout this campaign just yesterday and the day before, beautiful young people who are scared to death that their families are going to be separated. They have never been to Mexico in their life. They're going to be sent back there. So we need to provide immediate legal status to those 1.8 million young people, and we need a new policy on the border which deals with asylum seekers in a humane way. America must never be the country that tears little babies from the arms of their mothers.
So how does that policy at the border look like? I mean, for example, what would you do with detention centers right now?
I don't want to see children in cages, and I think there are other ways to deal with the influx of asylum seekers. Among other things, we need a lot more judges right now. There's a huge backlog. We don't have enough judges to handle the cases to determine whether or not people should be eligible for asylum. But these are people, as you know, who have walked, in some cases, hundreds of miles, 1,000 miles with little babies to escape violence and drug gangs in Honduras and elsewhere. They must be treated with dignity and not with the contempt that Trump deals with.
And how does ICE look under Bernie Sanders' presidency?
Well, it's part of the entire need for immigration reform. I don't want to see representatives of the United States government in ICE or any other agency standing outside of churches or schools or raiding communities to deport people. As I've said, we need comprehensive immigration reform, not terrorizing people. You got millions of people who are scared to death today, and we have got to end that and provide a path towards citizenship.
Now, you voted against the immigration reform in 2007,
yes.
Then you voted for the bill in 2013. Right. Would you look for an immigration reform within the first 100 days?
Very important, yes. Yes, I would. I voted against the 2007 bill along with some Latino organizations because it was very bad on guest worker programs, almost put people into permanent indentured servitude. And here's the good news, Julio, and that is that the American people support comprehensive immigration reform. And they certainly support legal status for the 1.8 million young people eligible for DACA. You got support from the American people, and when we get rid of a racist president, I think we will be able to implement that.
Again, with the tariffs that Donald Trump wants to implement, you haven't agreed with any free trade agreement before, right? Do you think these tariffs could help American workers?
No, I think Trump, by the way, NAFTA has had negative impacts on Mexico as well as American workers. And what that is about is a race to the bottom. So you throw an American worker, somebody in this country who's making $20 an hour out on the street, and you go to Mexico and you hire somebody at $2 an hour, okay? But what also NAFTA did, as you may know, had a very significant impact on small farmers, family farmers in Mexico, because a lot of cheap corn came into the country. So you had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of farmers with no longer a way to make a living. And many of them try to come into this country illegally. So we have got to work together. Mexico is not our enemy. Canada is not our enemy. We work together to develop trade policies, immigration policies that work for all three countries.
Do you like the new agreement, the USMCA, the new free trade agreement between?
No, it needs a lot of work before I would support it.
Now, on other issues, on your latest book, you say that...
On my what?
Your latest book.
Yes.
You say that climate change is one of the most difficult, most complicated issues, also one of the most important. How do you move from a fossil fuels system, energy system, towards a much more sustainable system?
And the answer is we have to do it. This is not my opinion. This is the opinion of the leading scientists in the world who have studied this issue extensively. What they tell us in their reports is that we have 12 years, that's not a long time, to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel and carbon emissions, or else there will be irreparable damage to this planet. I've got 7 grandchildren, and I want to make sure that future generations live in a country and a planet that's healthy and habitable.
But does it concern you, for example, that the Green New Deal is too radical to happen?
How can it be too radical? Look, how can it be too radical when the scientific community tells you that we're destroying the planet? We can do it. We have the technology and the expertise. So this is the future of the planet. How can we say, oh, it's too radical and we'll give up the future of the planet for our children and grandchildren? We can do it, and we can protect those workers in fossil fuel. My plan would provide substantial support for those communities that have to make the transition from fossil fuel to sustainable energy. We're not going to leave these people out there hanging. We're going to support them. But at the end of the day, we have to move to energy efficiency. We have to move to sustainable energies like wind, solar, geothermal. The future of the planet is at stake. And when we do that, we can create millions of good-paying jobs.
President Donald Trump has called many Democrats radicals and socialists. And many believe that for the Democrats to go back into the White House, they need to nominate a much more moderate candidate. What do you say to that?
I think they're dead wrong. We tried that in 2016. It didn't quite work. That's why we got Donald Trump. I think we need a candidate who can clearly defeat Trump, and all of the polling out there has me defeating Trump, especially in battleground states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and others. We're doing very well against Trump. What you need to do to defeat Trump are 2 things. Number 1, you have to energize what I call the Democratic base, and that is the African American community, the Latino community, the young people of this country who are overwhelmingly progressive. You need to get them excited and energized. I think our ideas can do that. Second thing you have to do is go into those states where Trump was strong and he won, and explain to Trump's supporters that he lied to them, that he just tried to throw 32 million people off of health insurance. That is not supporting working class people.
Do you feel responsible in any way for Hillary Clinton's defeat? Some people say you divided the
No,
party.
the only thing I feel responsible for is I didn't win the nomination, because if I won the nomination, I would have defeated Donald Trump.
So why, you don't think that you've divided the party? Some people are going towards your...
Look. Well, we are taking on the establishment, all right? That's the Democratic establishment, that's the media establishment, that's Wall Street and the drug companies and the insurance companies. We're taking them on. So a lot of people will say a lot of things. Last that I heard, in a democratic society, one is allowed to run for office, that we don't anoint people. I suppose there are some folks out there who say, let's anoint Joe Biden. Why do we have 24 candidates? Well, I don't agree with that. So I'm proud, by the way, that my campaign brought in a whole lot of young people that are helping to transform this country politically, including a lot of Latino youth.
And why do you think that young people feel so identified with you?
Because clearly I'm a very young person. What other answer is that? No, I think two reasons. Young people today, the younger generation in this country, is the most progressive generation in the history of this country. They're anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobic, anti-religious bigotry. They are concerned about climate change. So it's an idealistic generation, and I think we speak to that. Second answer is, everything being equal, unless we change it, and I intend to change it, the younger generation will have, for the first time in modern American history, a lower standard of living than their parents. Now, why is that? We're the richest country on earth. You got all this technology, all this computers, all this robotics. Why are kids looking to have a lower standard of living than their parents? And we speak to that. We say, if you have the ability and desire, you should be able to get a public education. You should be able to go to a public university or college tuition free. We're going to forgive student debt. We say that healthcare is a human right. We're going to have Medicare for all. We say that climate change is real. We're going to transform our energy system. That if you are able to work in the United States, we are going to guarantee you a decent paying job. Those are ideas that younger people gravitate toward.
How's your Spanish?
No muy bueno.
We have to work on that.
Yes, we will.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Francisco llegó a ser, contra su voluntad, uno de ellos. En mayo de 2018 ya había pasado un mes en el campamento y las pruebas se hacían insoportables